The air in Thornback Station smelled like oil and recycled oxygen. Hana wiped the grease from her hands onto her already dirty pants. Her back hurt. Her head hurt. The station's life support system had broken down again, and she spent 6 hours fixing it with nothing but old tools and stubbornness. She walked through the gray corridors toward her home. Her home was also an orphanage, the only orphanage in this part of space that took in children from different alien species. Most stations would not do this. Most aliens thought it was crazy. Humans were crazy, they said. Hana stopped at her door. She heard the sounds inside. Small feet moving quickly. Breathing. Waiting. She smiled, despite her exhaustion. They were there again. They were always there. She opened the door. 5 small bodies rushed at her like a wave. Claws extended. Teeth showing. Eyes bright with excitement. They hit her all at once, and she fell backward onto the floor. They piled on top of her. Small paws pressed on her chest. Wet noses touched her face. Purring sounds filled the air. "Stop! Stop!" a voice shouted. Heavy footsteps ran toward them. "Get away from her!" 2 figures appeared in the doorway. One was Day, a human diplomat in a clean gray suit. The other was Krell Noth, a full-grown Velkari who stood nearly 7 feet tall. His fur was dark red. His eyes were yellow and cold. His claws could cut through metal. Krell Noth moved to pull the cubs away from Hana. But she laughed. She actually laughed. She wrapped her arms around the smallest cub and rolled to her side. The cubs climbed over her like she was a mountain. Their claws were out, but they did not cut her. They knew how to be careful. "I am fine," Hana said, still laughing. "This is how they say hello." Day stared. His mouth was open. Krell Noth's ears went flat against his head. This was a sign of confusion in his species. Or anger. Maybe both. "Those are Velkari cubs," Krell Noth said slowly. "They are dangerous. They should not touch you like that." Hana sat up. The cubs settled around her. 1 sat in her lap. 2 leaned against her sides. The other 2 lay at her feet. Their eyes watched the strangers in the doorway. They did not look dangerous now. They looked like children. "Come in," Hana said. "We should talk." Day and Krell Noth entered slowly. Hana's home was small but clean. Toys were scattered on the floor. Blankets were piled in corners for sleeping. Pictures covered the walls. Most were drawn by the cubs. They showed stick figures of Hana and the cubs together. Bright colors. Happy images. Krell Noth looked around like he was seeing something impossible. In his world, this was impossible. Hana stood and walked to the kitchen area. The cubs followed her like shadows. She poured water for her guests. Her movements were calm and normal, as if 5 predator cubs following her everywhere was the most natural thing in the universe. "You are here about the orphanage," Hana said. It was not a question. Day nodded. "The Galactic Council wants to close it. They say humans cannot properly care for Velkari young." Day. 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 "They say you are making them weak," Krell Noth added. His voice was hard. "You are taking away their nature, their strength. This is not acceptable." Hana looked at him. She was not angry. She was tired, very tired. She had this conversation many times before. "What do you think makes them strong?" she asked. Krell Noth gestured at the cubs. "They should be aggressive, competitive, learning to fight, to hunt, to dominate. Instead, he struggled to find the words. "They act like pets, like earth animals. They act like children," Hana corrected. The smallest cub, the one Hana called Little Claw, tugged on her shirt. "Hana hungry," the cub said in broken but clear words. Speaking was hard for young Velkari. Their mouths were made for growling, not talking. But Little Claw tried anyway. "We will eat soon," Hana promised. She touched the cub's head gently. Little Claw purred and went back to the others. Day was writing notes on a datapad. How long have you had them? 6 months. They came from a colony ship that was attacked by raiders. Their parents died. The rescue team found them in an emergency pod. Starving. Terrified. Violent. And now? Day asked. Now they are healing. Krelnoth made a sound like a growl. You cannot heal a Velkari by making it soft. Our way has worked for thousands of years. Cubs are raised through strength. Through challenge, the weak ones do not survive. This makes our species powerful. Hana met his eyes. And how many cubs die in your system? How many grow up angry and broken? How many never learn that there is more to life than fighting? Krelnoth did not answer. I will be honest, Day said carefully. The council has already made their decision. They want to remove the cubs. Take them back to Velkar Prime. Raise them the traditional way. He paused. But I asked to see the orphanage first. To make my own report. What do you need to see? Hana asked. Everything. Over the next hour, Hana showed them the daily routine. Meal times where the cubs shared food instead of fighting for it. Lesson times where they learned to read and solve puzzles. Playtimes where they practiced control and cooperation. Sleep times where they curled up together in a pile of warmth and safety. Day watched closely. He took many notes. Krelnoth watched too, but his face showed no emotion. At the end, they stood at the door again. The cubs sat behind Hana. They did not like strangers leaving. It reminded them of people who never came back. I will file my report, Day said. But I must tell you the council wants proof. Proof that your methods work. That these cubs can survive in the real world. What kind of proof? Hana asked, though she already knew the answer. Krelnoth smiled. It was not a kind smile. A trial. A test of their abilities. If they pass, perhaps the council will reconsider. If they fail. He did not finish. He did not need to. They left. The door closed. Hana stood there for a long moment. Then she felt small paws touching her legs. She looked down. 5 pairs of eyes looked up at her. Trusting eyes. Eyes that believed she would keep them safe. She knelt down and pulled them close. They purred against her. They did not know what was coming. They only knew that she always came back. She always opened the door. She always smiled at them. Even when she was tired. Even when she was scared. Especially then. Day returned to the orphanage 3 days later. This time, he brought someone new. Her name was Hyun, and she was the security chief of Thornback Station. She was short and serious, with scars on her arms from the border wars. She carried a datapad with video files. I have been watching the cubs, Hyun said without greeting. For 6 months. Every day. I recorded everything. Hana made tea. The cubs watched from the corner. They remembered Hyun. She sometimes brought them sweet fruits from the station market. They liked her, but they did not pounce on her. They only pounced on Hana. Why? Day asked Hyun. Because nobody believed it, Hyun said. She opened her datapad. Watch. The first video showed the cubs 6 months ago. They were in a white room. Medical containment. They moved in quick, jerky ways. Their eyes were wild. When a medical robot entered with food, they attacked it. Tore it apart. Ate the food from the broken pieces. Then, they fought each other for the scraps. Day felt sick watching it. These are the same cubs? 2. Yes, Hyun said. She played another video. This one showed Hana entering the containment room for the first time. She wore no protective gear. No weapons. She sat down on the floor and waited. The cubs hid in the corners. Growling. Hissing. Ready to attack. Hana did not move. She just sat there. For hours. In the video, time was sped up. Day became, night became day. Hana brought food. She put it in the middle of the room and backed away. The cubs did not take it while she watched. So she turned around, gave them privacy, gave them choice. Slowly, over many days, they came closer. First, just to take the food when she was not looking. Then to eat, while she was there but far away. Then to eat while she was close. Then, one day, the smallest cub touched her hand with its nose. Hana did not grab it, did not try to pet it. She just let it smell her. Let it decide. The video jumped forward. Now the cubs followed Hana around the room. When she sat, they sat near her. Not touching yet, but close. Learning that she was safe, that she came back, that she did not hurt. How long did this take? Day asked. 3 weeks, Hana said quietly. The hardest 3 weeks of my life. Hyun played more videos. The cubs learning to play without hurting each other. Learning to ask for things with words instead of violence. Learning to wait their turn. Learning to share. This should not work, Day said. Valkyrie psychology is different from human psychology. Their brains are wired for aggression and territory. Are they? Hana asked. She pointed at the cubs. Look at them now. Tell me what you see. Day looked. The cubs were playing with soft toys. One cub pretended to hunt. Another pretended to hide. They took turns. When one cub played too rough, the others made unhappy sounds, and the rough cubs stopped, said sorry in their simple way. Tried again more gently. I see children playing, Day admitted. Exactly, Hana said. On Earth, we have a saying. Nature loads the gun, but environment pulls the trigger. Yes, these cubs have instincts for hunting and fighting, but they also have instincts for bonding and learning. I just worked with different instincts. Krelnoth entered the room. Nobody had heard him come in. He moved silent, like all Valkyrie. His eyes were hard. You taught them weakness, he said. No, Hana said firmly. I taught them control. There is a difference. Weakness is not being able to fight. Control is choosing when to fight and when not to. Krelnoth walked to the cubs. They stopped playing. They moved behind Hana. Not running away. Not attacking. Just being careful. Smart. They fear me, Krelnoth said. They do not fear you, Hana corrected. They are cautious. They do not know you. This is wise, not weak. Krelnoth knelt down. He was trying to be less frightening. It did not work well. His size and his natural aggression made everything he did seem threatening. He reached out a paw toward Little Claw. Little Claw looked at Hana. Hana nodded. Permission. Safety. Little Claw slowly came forward and touched noses with Krelnoth. The traditional Valkyrie greeting between cubs and adults. Krelnoth pulled back like he had been burned. His ears went flat. His tail moved in quick, confused motions. What is wrong? Day asked. The cub knows the greeting, Krelnoth said. His voice was strange, quiet. But it should not. Nobody taught this. This is instinct. Old instinct. From before. He stopped talking. Before what? Hana pressed. Krelnoth stood up quickly. The council has agreed to a trial. 1 week from today. The cubs will enter a survival simulation. If they pass, you may keep them. If they fail, they come with me to Velkar Prime. What kind of trial? Hana asked, though her stomach felt heavy. She knew it would not be easy. A real one, Krelnoth said. Automated threats. Environmental hazards. Resource scarcity. Everything a Valkyrie cub must overcome to prove they can survive. They are too young for that, Hana said. Anger crept into her voice. The oldest is barely 7 years old in development. On Velkar Prime, cubs face such trials at 5 years, Krelnoth replied. These cubs are late, pampered, soft. This is the problem. Day stepped between them. The council has made the decision. I am sorry, Hana. This is the only way to prove your methods work. After they left, Hana sat on the floor. The cubs came to her. They piled around her like always, warm and trusting. Little Claw climbed into her lap. "Hana sad?" Little Claw asked. "A little," Hana admitted. She never lied to them. "But we will be okay." She hoped that was true. That night, after the cubs slept, Hyun returned. She brought rice, wine, and 2 cups. They sat in the dark kitchen area and drank in silence for a while. "You know what they are doing," Hyun finally said. "They designed a trial that traditional Velkari cubs barely survive. Cubs raised with aggression and competition. Cubs trained to fight from birth. Cubs trained to fight from birth. I know. Your cubs are different. Gentle. Cooperative. The trial will test individual strength and violence. Your cubs will fail." "Axon. Maybe," Hana said. She stared at her cup. "Or maybe the trial is testing the wrong things. You cannot change the trial." "No," Hana agreed. "But I can trust the cubs. Trust that what I taught them matters. That kindness is not the same as weakness. That love is not the same as softness." Hyun looked at her friend. "And if you are wrong?" Hana did not answer. Instead, she stood and walked to where the cubs slept. They were piled together in their favorite corner. A mess of fur and paws and tails. Peaceful. Safe. Together. She thought about Earth. About how ancient humans had taken wolf cubs and made them into dogs. How they had befriended horses and cats and birds. How they had learned that the strongest bond was not made through force but through trust. She thought about the border wars. About the children she could not save. About the promises she made to herself after. To do better. To be better. To prove that another way was possible. The cubs slept on, dreaming whatever small cubs dreamed, not knowing that in 1 week, everything would change. That they would have to prove themselves to a universe that did not believe in them. But Hana believed. She had to. It was all she had left. The week passed too quickly. Hana did not change anything. She did not train the cubs for combat. She did not teach them to be more aggressive. She just kept doing what she always did. Meals together. She did not tated. Lessons. Play. Stories before sleep. Normal life. Hyun thought she was crazy. Dae thought she was brave. Hana thought she was terrified. The morning of the trial came. The cubs knew something was different. They felt Hana's fear even though she tried to hide it. The trial arena was in the lower levels of the station. It was a large room with metal walls and a high ceiling. Observation windows lined the upper level. Already, aliens from many species gathered to watch. News had spread across the station. Everyone wanted to see if the humans' experiment would fail. Krelnoth stood at the entrance to the arena. Behind him were other Velkari, council members, elders. They watched with cold, judging eyes. "The simulation will run for 2 hours," Krelnoth explained. "The cubs must survive automated defense systems, environmental hazards, and resource challenges. At the end, they must reach the safe zone on the other side of the arena." "Can I talk to them before?" Hana asked. "No." They enter alone. Hana knelt down in front of the cubs. She looked at each one. Pip, the oldest and bravest. Striker, who was fast and clever. Glow, who loved puzzles and problems. Fang, who was strong but gentle. And Little Claw, the smallest, who talked the most. "Remember what I taught you," Hana said softly. "Stay together. Help each other. Think before you act. You are strong because you care for each other, not despite it." The cubs touched their noses to her hands. Then they walked into the arena. The door closed behind them with a heavy sound. Final. Frightening. Hana climbed to the observation level. Hyun was already there. Also present was Yuna, a human engineer who had helped modify some of the cubs' toys. She looked worried. "I do not like this," Yuna said. The simulation is too hard. Even for adult Velkari, it would be challenging. The simulation started. Immediately, the floor of the arena began to shift. Platforms rose and fell. Walls moved. The cubs stumbled, but did not panic. They moved to the center and formed a circle, backs together, watching all directions. Defensive formation. Smart. A drone appeared from the ceiling. It shot stun bolts at the cubs. Traditional Velkari cubs would scatter, each trying to find their own cover. These cubs did something different. The older cubs moved to shield the younger ones. They worked together to push over a metal crate for shelter. In the observation windows, Velkari observers made sounds of confusion. This was not normal behavior. The simulation continued. Fire burst from vents in the walls. Water flooded parts of the floor. The cubs had to cross narrow bridges over deep drops. They had to find food containers hidden in dangerous places. They had to avoid security robots programmed to catch them. Traditional cubs would fight the robots. Attack aggressively. Win through violence. Haina's cubs did something else. They led the robots into traps. Used the environment against them. Glow figured out the robot patrol patterns. Striker found a way to shut off the fire vents. Pip organized everything, keeping track of where each cub was. When Little Claw fell into the water, Fang jumped in immediately. Did not hesitate. Did not think about his own safety first. He pulled Little Claw out, and the others helped warm the small cub up. They lost time doing this. But they did not lose each other. Hana watched with tears in her eyes. They understood. They really understood. An hour passed. The cubs were tired, hungry, scared, but still together. Still trying. The safe zone was visible now. A green-lit platform at the far end of the arena. But between them and safety was the final challenge. A combat robot activated. Large, armed, programmed to test fighting ability. Traditional cubs would be forced to fight it. Prove their strength through violence. The cubs looked at the robot. Looked at each other. Then, they did something nobody expected. They ran away. Not in panic. In strategy. They split up, drawing the robot's attention in different directions. While it chased some, others found a control panel. Glow had been watching throughout the trial, learning, understanding. The small cub manipulated the controls, and the robot stopped moving. They did not destroy it. Did not need to. They just made it irrelevant. The cubs reached the safe zone together. All 5. Alive. Unharmed, except for small cuts and bruises. They collapsed in a pile, exhausted, but successful. The arena went silent. Then the door opened, and Hana ran in. She did not care about protocol. Did not care about the observers. She ran to her cubs and they climbed all over her, crying and purring and talking all at once. "We did it," Little Claw said. "We did it together." "Yes," Hana said, hugging them tight. "Yes, you did." In the observation room, arguments began. Velkari council members shouted at each other. Some said the cubs cheated by not fighting. Others said intelligence was also strength. Krelnoth stood silent, watching Hana and the cubs below. Day approached him. They passed. They survived. By any measure, they succeeded. "They did not fight," Krelnoth said. "They did not need to," Day replied. "Is that not the highest form of victory? To win without fighting?" Krelnoth's ears moved in complex patterns. Confusion. Uncertainty. Something else. Something that might have been wonder. An old Velkari female stepped forward. Her fur was gray with age. Her eyes were clouded, but her voice was strong. "I am Shenra," she said. "Cultural historian of the Velkari people. I was summoned to witness this trial and document the corrupted cubs." She paused. "But I did not see corruption. I saw something else, something very old." Everyone turned to look at her. "What did you see?" Day asked. Shenra looked down at Hana and the cubs. I saw the past. I saw what we used to be. Before the wars. Before we forgot how to raise cubs with love, instead of only strength. She turned to the council. This human did not corrupt our young. She reminded them of what we lost. What we chose to forget. Krelnoth stared at the old historian. That is impossible. We have always raised cubs through challenge and competition. No, Shinra said gently. Not always. Only for the last 3,000 years. Before that, we were different. I have studied the old texts, seen the ancient images, cubs raised in family groups, learning cooperation alongside competition, learning love alongside strength. She pointed at the cubs below. Look at them. They know the nose greeting. They form defensive circles. They prioritize group survival over individual glory. These are not learned behaviors. These are ancient instincts. Instincts that our modern methods suppress. This human simply allowed those instincts to surface. The room erupted in more arguments. But Hana did not hear them. She was too busy being climbed on by 5 exhausted, happy cubs who had just proven that being gentle did not mean being weak. That choosing not to fight was sometimes the bravest choice of all. The council argued for 3 days. Shenra presented her research. Ancient texts showing different methods of cub raising, historical images of Velkari family groups, evidence that the modern way was not the only way, not even the original way. Some council members were convinced. Others were angry. Change was hard, especially change that questioned thousands of years of tradition. On the 4th day, Krelnoth came to the orphanage. His face showed no emotion, but his tail moved in agitated patterns. The council has made a decision, he said. Hana stood up slowly. The cubs sensed her tension. They gathered around her legs. Little Claw climbed up to her shoulder. A favorite spot when scared. What decision? The cubs must return to Velkar Prime, Krelnoth said. Despite the trial results, the council believes cubs should be raised by their own species. This is tradition. This is law. The transport ship arrives in 2 days. Hana felt the world tilt. She heard Hyun and Yuna making sounds of protest. She heard Dae arguing about the trial, about fairness, about what the cubs had proven. But it all sounded far away. Underwater. Unreal. You cannot. She whispered. I must. Krelnoth said. He would not meet her eyes. Species. Sovereignty. Galactic law. The council has authority over all Velkari cubs. He turned to leave, then stopped. I am sorry. But this is how it must be. After he left, Hana sat down on the floor. The cubs climbed onto her. They made worried sounds. They did not understand all the words, but they understood the feeling. Something bad was coming. Hana, stay? Pip asked. The oldest cub was also the most perceptive. Hana could not answer. She just held them. That night, Hana could not sleep. She lay in the dark with the cubs piled around her like always. She listened to them breathe, felt their warmth, memorized everything about this moment because soon it would only be a memory. Little Claw was not asleep either. The small cub lifted its head. Hana? Yes, little one. Tell story? The one about finding? Hana knew the story. It was the cub's favorite. She had told it 100 times. It was a human fairy tale about orphans who found each other and became a family. Not through blood, through choice, through love. She told the story in a whisper. The other cubs woke up to listen. They always did for this story. When she finished, they were all quiet for a moment. Then Pip said something that broke Hana's heart. We found each other. We are family. Why must we leave? I do not know, Hana said honestly. The universe is not always fair. Sometimes bad things happen to good people, to good cubs. Will you come with us? Stryker asked. I do not think they will allow it. Will you visit? Glow asked. I will try. I promise I will try. Will we forget you? Fang asked quietly. That question hurt most of all. Hana pulled them closer. I hope not. I will never forget you. Little Claw touched Hana's face with a small paw. I remember before you. Cold. Hurt. Scared. Alone. The words were simple but clear. Then you. Warm. Safe. Together. The other cubs made agreeing sounds. They remembered too. For them, memory was divided into 2 times. Before, Hana. After Hana. Before was darkness. After was light. They could not imagine going back to before. The next day, word spread through the station. Other residents came to say goodbye. Aliens from many species. Some brought gifts. Some just wanted to see the cubs one last time. Many cried. Even species that did not normally show emotion. An elderly Skrillex, whose species had no eyes, gave the cubs smooth stones from its homeworld. For remembering. It said in its clicking language. A young Nethian brought sweet cakes. I watched you play in the garden dome, she said shyly. You taught me that different species can be friends. I will miss you. Even the station administrator, who had always complained about the orphanage, came. You changed this place, he told Hana. Made it less cold. More like a home. What will we do without you? That afternoon, Shenra visited. The old historian sat with Hana, while the cubs played quietly in the corner. They did not play with their usual energy. They knew something was ending. I spoke to the council again, Shenra said. I showed them everything. All my research, all the ancient texts. They do not care. Tradition is more important than truth for them. Then why did you try? Hana asked bitterly. Because some things are worth fighting for. Even when you know you will lose. Shenra looked at the cubs. I have been studying them. Watching. Taking notes. Do you know what I see? What? I see hope. Hope that my species is not as lost as I feared. These cubs prove we can be different. Be better. They prove the old ways can return. She turned to Hana. You gave us a gift. Even if the council takes the cubs away, you showed us what is possible. Eventually is too late for them, Hana said. Perhaps. Perhaps not. The universe is strange. Things change. In unexpected ways. That night was the last night. Tomorrow the transport ship would come. Tomorrow the cubs would leave. Tomorrow Hana's family would be torn apart by laws and traditions she could not fight. She gathered the cubs close. They did not want to sleep. They wanted to stay awake. To make this last night as long as possible. To hold on to every moment. Will the new place have doors? Little Claw asked suddenly. What? Hana was confused. Doors. For waiting. For you to come back. Hana understood. Every day, the cubs waited by the door. Every day, she came back. It was their routine. Their certainty. The thing that made them feel safe. She always left. She always returned. The door was the promise. I do not know what the new place will have, Hana said. Her voice cracked. But wherever you go, remember that I loved you. Remember that you are strong and smart and kind. Remember that choosing cooperation is not weakness. Remember. She could not finish. She just held them while they purred and cried and tried to memorize her smell, her touch, her voice. Outside, unknown to Hana, Krelnoth stood in the corridor. He had come to finalize the transfer papers. He heard everything through the thin door. The cubs' questions, Hana's breaking voice. The sound of a family being destroyed by rules that suddenly seemed cruel. His ears went flat, his claws extended and retracted, extended and retracted. Something was wrong. Something felt deeply, fundamentally wrong. But he did not know what to do about it. He was Velkari. He followed orders. He respected tradition. He did what the council commanded. This was who he was, who his species was. But standing there, listening to cubs cry for a human who loved them, he wondered if who they were was actually who they should be. Morning came too quickly. Hana woke to find all 5 cubs staring at her. They had not slept. They just watched her through the night, making sure she was still there. Still real. "I do not want to go," Little Claw said simply. "I know," Hana said. She made breakfast. The cubs did not eat much. Neither did she. Everything felt mechanical, unreal, like moving through a bad dream. At midday, the transport ship docked. The corridor filled with officials. Paperwork. Protocols. Cold, efficient processes for taking children away from their home. Krelnoth arrived with 2 other Velkari. They carried transport cages. Small. Metal. Meant for animals. Not children. "No," Hana said firmly. "They walk with dignity, or they do not go." Krelnoth looked at the cages, then at the cubs. Something in his eyes changed. "They walk," he agreed. The other Velkari looked surprised but said nothing. The cubs lined up, smallest to largest. They held hands, something Velkari cubs never did. But these cubs were not like others. These cubs had learned different ways. Shenra appeared at the door, breathing hard like she had been running. Behind her were Dae, Hyun, and Yuna. Behind them were dozens of station residents. Aliens, from many species, all coming to witness, to protest, to say goodbye. "Wait," Shenra said. She moved through the crowd. In her hands was a data pad. "Please, just wait. I found something. Something important." Krelnoth's ears went back. "The decision is made. The ship is here. We cannot delay." "You must," Shenra insisted. She held up the data pad. On it was an ancient document. "This is from the first age of our people. Before space travel. Before we became what we are now. It is a law. The oldest law of the Velkari people." She began to read in the ancient Velkari language, then translated. "Cubs belong to those who raise them. Blood is not the only bond. Those who feed, protect, and teach have the right of family. This is sacred. This cannot be broken." Krelnoth stared. "That law is ancient, not used in thousands of years, but never removed," Shenra said. "Still valid. Still law. Older than the council. Older than modern tradition." She pointed at Hana. "This human has fed these cubs, protected them, taught them. By our oldest law, she has the right of family. They are hers." The corridor erupted. Arguments in many languages. Velkari officials checking databases, confirming the law existed. Dae, recording everything, officially. Hyun standing guard like she would fight anyone who tried to take the cubs now. Krelnoth stood very still. His face showed a war of emotions. Duty against doubt. Tradition against truth. What he was taught against what he had seen. He looked at Hana. Then at the cubs. Then at the transport cages his people had brought. Cages for children. Cages for family. The sight of them suddenly disgusted him. "The law is valid," he said slowly. Every word seemed hard for him. "But the council must approve. They must acknowledge it. Then we wait for the council," Dae said. "The cubs stay here until this is decided properly." More arguments, more debates. Hours passed. The cubs stayed close to Hana. She held them and whispered promises she hoped she could keep. Finally, as the station's artificial day turned to artificial night, the council responded. A hologram appeared in the corridor. 5 council members. Their faces were hard to read. "The ancient law has been verified," the lead counselor said. "It is valid. However, we must determine if the human has truly fulfilled the requirements. We must send observers. Conduct interviews. This will take time." How much time? Hana asked. Months. Perhaps longer. And during this time, the cubs remain with you. Temporarily. Temporarily. It was not a victory. Not yet. But it was not defeat. It was a chance. A door. Left open. The transport ship left without its cargo. The corridor slowly emptied. Eventually, only Hana, the cubs, Krell, Noth, and Shenra remained. Krell looked at the cubs for a long moment. Then he did something nobody expected. He knelt down, lowered his head. The sign of respect between Velkari, usually given only to proven warriors or elders. He was giving it to cubs. I was wrong, he said. The words were quiet, but clear. I thought strength meant never backing down, never changing, never doubting. But I watched you in the trial. I watched you choose cleverness over violence, cooperation over competition. You survived not despite these choices, because of them. He stood and looked at Hana. Perhaps my species has been wrong for a very long time. Perhaps we forgot something important in our rush to be strong. He paused. I will speak for you at the council hearings. I will argue that these cubs should stay with you. Why? Hana asked. Why help us now? Krell tail moved in complex patterns. Because I stood outside your door last night. I heard you say goodbye. I heard the cubs cry. I heard a family being destroyed by rules that suddenly seemed cruel. He looked away. I have enforced many rules in my life, followed many traditions, but I never before felt shame for doing so. Last night, I felt shame. He left without another word. Shenra smiled. That is the first step, she said. Acknowledgement. Change begins there. She left too. Finally, Hana and the cubs were alone. They returned to the orphanage, to their home. Everything looked the same but felt different. Lighter somehow. Like a weight had lifted. The cubs did not wait by the door that evening. They did not need to. Hana had not left. She was here. She stayed. That night, they all slept deeply for the first time in days. Curled, together. Safe. Together. The months that followed were hard. Council observers came and went. Interviews. Evaluations. Questions and tests, and constant scrutiny. But Hana and the cubs endured. They showed the observers their daily life, their routines, their love. More humans arrived at the station. Tay, a teacher. Jin, a doctor. Nari, a counselor. They came to help, to prove that humans could build something good in this cold part of space. More orphans arrived too. Not just Velkari. Other species. Children lost in the wars and conflicts that still raged at the borders. The orphanage grew, became something bigger than one human and 5 cubs. 1 year later, the council made their final decision. The ancient law was reinstated. Hana was officially recognized as the cubs' guardian. They were family. Legally. Permanently. 3 years after that, the program had expanded to 47 stations. Humans teaching other species new ways to raise orphaned children. Ways that combined the best of all cultures. Strength and gentleness. Competition and cooperation. Tradition and innovation. The cubs grew. Pip became a mediator, helping different species understand each other. Stryker joined security, using intelligence instead of force to solve problems. Glow became an engineer, designing better living spaces for multi-species families. Fang became a teacher, showing young aliens that being kind was not the same as being weak. Little Claw became a speaker, traveling to other stations and telling their story, showing others what was possible. But no matter how far they traveled or how old they grew, they returned to Thornback Station once a year. Returned to the small orphanage where they learned that family was not about species or blood. Family was about choosing each other. Every day, even when it was hard, especially then. And every time they returned, they waited by the door. Not because they had to, because they wanted to. Because waiting by the door meant someone was coming home. Someone who loved you. Someone who would always smile when they saw you. And when Hannah opened the door, older now, her hair more gray than black, they pounced on her anyway. Carefully now, because they were bigger, and she was more fragile. But still with the same joy, the same love, the same absolute certainty that this was where they belonged. Inside the orphanage, new cubs watched. Cubs from a dozen different species, learning by example, learning that the strongest bond in the universe was not made through force, it was made through a simple act. Opening a door, smiling, letting someone in, choosing love over fear. Every time, without fail. This was the lesson. This was what the humans taught the galaxy. Not through weapons or technology or conquest. Through something much more powerful. Through showing up. Through staying. Through loving the broken things and helping them heal. Through opening doors. Through always coming back.